I wish I had died before this and was a thing long forgotten.
Oh, Maryam, you have certainly done a horrible thing! O sister of Harun, your father was not an indecent man, nor was your mother unchaste.
A pure, innocent woman, surrounded by a crowd that is hurling slanders at her, Maryam AS. Just when they thought she had nothing to say, one voice rose from the most unexpected person. His words silenced every doubt. I am truly a servant of Allah. He has given me the book and made me a prophet. Yes, the one who spoke was Maryam's baby, Prophet Isa AS, who was still in the cradle. But what led to this miracle began one day when she was alone in the temple. The message Jibreel brought to her would change the course of human history forever. The woman Allah chose and elevated above all other women. This is the story of Maryam AS. This video series is based on hundreds of references from reliable Islamic sources. All AI visuals were prepared in consultation with qualified Muslim scholars and in line with Islamic guidelines. And now, if you're ready, we're taking a journey back in time through the ancient streets of Jerusalem, the city in which many prophets have walked. We meet a remarkable woman, Hinna, the mother of Maryam. Hinna was a woman who was always making dua, constantly remembering her Lord. Her husband, Imran, was a respected man, well known for his trustworthiness, honesty, and deep knowledge. Hinna and Imran lived in a simple and peaceful home, right in the heart of Jerusalem. But in this peaceful home, there was a growing emptiness with each passing day, a joyful smile, a sound that would cheer up the entire house, a child's voice. Yes, Hinna hadn't felt the joy of becoming a mother. Only one prayer kept echoing in her heart. She wished to have a child. It was a longing she had felt for years, a weight that brought tears to her eyes in every prayer. One day, while Hinna was sitting in the shade of a tree in the yard of the temple, Bayt al-Maqdis, her gaze fell upon a bird's nest under the roof. A mother bird was flying back and forth, trying to feed her tiny chicks with care. Watching this tender effort brought a gentle ache to Hinna's heart. She looked at the bird, then at herself. She thought about how she had never become a mother. The emptiness in Hinna's heart grew even deeper. Her wish to have a child grew so strong that tears began to fall from her eyes. It was as if in that moment, she was silently praying to Allah through all the pain in her heart, saying, "O my Lord, you know the longing I have felt for so many years. Please grant me a child." It was such a sincere, such a heartfelt dua that the miracle she had been waiting for all these years would actually come true. Her prayer was answered, and Hinna soon became pregnant. Months later, a blessed girl would join the family of Imran, a child who would change the course of history. And this was not an ordinary child. She was destined to become a woman who would be a symbol of purity and chastity. When Hinna realized she was pregnant, she felt a happiness impossible to describe. And the first thing she did was turn to her Lord. She raised her hands in prayer again, this time with joyous gratitude and a deep sense of submission to Allah. This was not a simple act of gratitude. It was a promise to dedicate her most precious gift back to her Lord, before the baby was even born.
My Lord, I dedicate what is in my womb entirely to your service. So accept it from me. You alone are truly the all-hearing, the all-knowing.
In those days, one of the greatest promises a mother could make was to dedicate her unborn child to the service of her Lord. It was an act of devotion so great that not everyone had the courage to do it, because that child would leave all worldly things and spend his whole life serving in the temple. And Hinna's prayer was the promise of a great sacrifice. When she dedicated her child to be raised in the temple, she was not only making a promise, she was giving up the precious moments of being a mother, raising her child herself, holding her child close, and breathing in their sweet scent. Was this easy for a mother? Of course not. A mother's compassion is so strong, so deep. So inside Hinna's heart, this felt like a storm as well. She wanted to hold her child close and never let them out of her sight. But she also knew one truth in her heart. Even if I am not here, their Lord always will be. Hinna lived with this kind of deep trust in Allah. And now, the moment of meeting her child was getting closer. Her heart beat faster with the excitement of the approaching birth. She eagerly waited for the day her child would be born, and she would dedicate her baby to her Lord. Sometimes, at night, she would pray for her child, look toward the sacred temple in Jerusalem and wonder, what will it be like when my child serves here? And in those very same days, Hinna was devastated by her dear husband's passing. He was no longer by her side. She would not have a companion to share her burdens. She felt a deep sense of loneliness. Yes, Maryam would be born as an orphan, and this was only the beginning of her solitude. Then, the moment she had been waiting for so many years finally arrived. Her child was born, and finally in her arms. But Hinna was both shocked and sad at the same time. She was filled with tears because there was something she had never expected. All this time, she was praying for a son, yet the baby she held in her arms was a girl. In those days, serving in Bayt al-Maqdis was a duty strictly for men only. That's why when Hinna asked Allah for a son would serve in the temple and devote his entire life to Allah there. For a moment, her heart felt a gentle ache. She was surprised, but she fully trusted her Lord's plan, because she knew that Allah's plan was far greater than her plan. She was just asking for the blessing she wanted, but Allah is the one who grants in the way He wants. At first glance, it may seem that her prayer was not accepted, but in truth, her prayer was accepted and answered in a far greater way. Maryam was not just a girl. She would grow up to become a woman who would inspire all of humanity, shape an entire era, and become the mother of a messenger. That's why one of the Islamic scholars, Badiüzzaman, said, "Someone asks for a son, and Almighty God grants a daughter like Maryam. One should not say that his dua was not accepted, but that it was accepted in a better way." And maybe you sometimes ask yourself, I prayed so much, why didn't it turn out the way I wanted? Maybe this question is what weighs on a person the most. Your chest feels tight inside, maybe you shed some silent tears at night, but the answer comes when you least expect it, from a place maybe you never thought of. Because Allah, the one who hears everything, hears you, and He knows what's best for you. You're in a hurry, but He makes it happen at just the right time. You may feel sad when a door closes, but later, He opens a much better door for you. You'll end up saying, I'm so glad, so grateful that my prayer wasn't answered back then, because my Lord truly chose what was best for me. On one hand, she was feeling the joy of finally holding the child she had waited so long for, and on the other, she was tested with the absence of her life partner, her closest companion, her closest friend. As she held her baby, a part of her was missing. Her soulmate, the one she had dreamed of sharing this moment with, was no longer by her side. As her little girl's tiny hands held her fingers tightly, the man she had dreamed of sharing this moment with by looking into his eyes was no longer there. She was deprived of that moment. Despite her age, Hinna did everything she could. She gave Maryam love and tried everything she could to not make her feel the absence of her father. As for Maryam, without even realizing it, she was growing toward a completely unique destiny written just for her. Months went by, and the time was drawing near. Hinna had to keep the promise she made to her Lord. She took her little daughter, and together they began to walk towards Bayt al-Maqdis. Maryam was still just a tiny child, at the age when children still cling to their mothers. Together, they slowly walked toward the temple.
My Lord, I dedicate what is in my womb entirely to your service, so accept it from me.
With that prayer, Maryam's life in the temple was about to begin. And now, as they walked on that path, her delicate hands held tightly to her mother's. With every step, Hinna felt a tightness in her heart, yet she walked in silence and did not turn back. When they reached the gate of the temple, Hinna gently stroked her daughter's head and took her soft little hands into her palms. Her eyes filled with tears, and she felt an unbearable heaviness in her heart. But she did not give up, because she knew this was not a goodbye. This was her tawakkul in her Lord. And that day, the walls of Bayt al-Maqdis bore witness to something unusual. The sky was silent, and a soft murmur rose in the courtyard. The Jewish scholars gathered with curiosity and surprise. Until that day, only boys had been accepted to serve in the temple. No one had even thought that a girl could have a place there.
This has never happened before. A girl cannot serve here.
But this time, something different was happening. Maryam was dedicated directly to her Lord. She came from a noble and pure family, respected for serving the temple. She was the daughter of the greatly respected Imran. Because of this, the scholars had to make a decision that broke with tradition. So Maryam was accepted into the temple. When Allah sets a special path for His servant, nothing can stand in the way, not traditions and not even the limits we expect. Because what truly matters isn't the rules people set, it's Allah's wisdom, Allah's plan. When Allah wills something, everything can change. In our own lives, we often forget this truth. We look at obstacles in front of us and say, it can't happen, it's impossible. But the things we see as causes have no real power. With His command, be, everything can change in an instant. Where we say, it's the end, Allah creates a new beginning, and He opens doors for us from places we never expect. So, the doors of the temple opened wide for Maryam, but the real question was, who would take care of her? Who would look after Maryam? She was a child who needed care. Her father had been such a respected man among the people that so many of the scholars wanted the honor of taking care of Imran's daughter. So the religious leaders made this decision in an unconventional way. The one whose pen remained afloat would be chosen. They put their pens into a pool of water. One by one, the pens sank. Except for one, the pen of Prophet Zakariya. So it became clear who Maryam would be entrusted to. Prophet Zakariya AS embraced this small and blessed responsibility with compassion. For this righteous prophet, who had longed for a child himself and was now an old man, this duty was also a great comfort. Maryam's upbringing first began in the home of Zakariya AS and her aunt, where she received the warm and loving care she needed as a child until she was ready for her life in the temple. This is mentioned in the Qur'an as follows. So her Lord accepted her with good acceptance and caused her to grow in a good manner and put her in the care of Zakariya. As time passed, Maryam grew up with a unique calmness and a special nur on her face. As that little girl grew, her face carried not only innocence, but also a depth and maturity rarely seen in children her age. When she finally reached the age to serve in the temple, Zakariya brought her to the holy place where she would spend the rest of her life. From that time on, Maryam's life was spent in worship in her special room in the temple. She devoted herself completely to Allah and filled her time with prayer and remembrance. And Allah never left her without His help. Whenever Zakariya visited her special room, he would find fresh fruits beside her, fruits that were completely out of season. Surprised by what he saw, he asked, "O Maryam, where did this come from?" And as always, Maryam's answer was with the same deep tawakkul in her Lord.
"It is from Allah. Surely Allah provides for whoever He wills without limit."
As Zakariya AS watched what was happening with wonder, he understood that Allah was preparing this girl for something great in the future, but he did not know what it was yet. As for Maryam, she was living unaware of everything, fully devoted to her Lord. Her devotion is mentioned in the Qur'an like this: "O Maryam, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you, and chosen you above the women of the worlds." Think about it, a woman whose name is specifically mentioned in the Qur'an, and not only mentioned, but chosen and honored above all women, praised by Allah Himself. This is the greatest honor and closeness a servant can have. Yes, Maryam had grown up and now had become a young woman. One day, she withdrew to her room in the temple, but this time, something very strange was going on. Maryam, and there standing in front of her, was a stranger. Who was this person who just appeared in her room? The door didn't open, there wasn't any sound. He was standing right in front of her. At that moment, fear filled Maryam's heart. Time seemed to stop. Her heart beat as if it would leap from her chest, and her knees began to tremble.
"I truly seek refuge in the most compassionate from you. So leave me alone, if you are God-fearing."
The voice that responded to her was clearer and more comforting than any human voice. Yes, the one who had come was Jibreel. "I'm only a messenger from your Lord, sent to bless you with a pure son." In that moment, it felt like everything just froze. Thousands of questions passed through Maryam's mind, but they all came together in a single question.
How can I have a boy while no man has touched me, and I have not been immoral?
And the answer was a message of good news from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So will it be. Your Lord says, "It is easy for me, and we will make him a sign to the people and a mercy from us, and it is a matter already decreed." Maryam was worried, but the faith in her heart was stronger than her fear. She knew that the one who created this miracle would also create a way to protect her. She silently submitted to Allah's command and was content with His decree. The burden that Maryam had to carry on her shoulders was not easy, and only a servant like her could bear such a trial. The Qur'an tells us, "So she conceived him and withdrew with him to a remote place." In that moment, a new life began for Maryam. She had neither a husband to lean on nor a friend to comfort her. Maryam was alone again. She could not silence the fear in her mind. It was as if every thought, every inner voice was saying, "Run." But where could she go? At the same time, she was thinking, what am I going to tell people? Anything she said would be misunderstood. She would be judged. So Maryam chose to remain silent and walked. She walked without looking back at the crowded streets. She quietly left the city. Carrying a child in her belly, she walked alone. With every step, she went further and further away from familiar faces and judging eyes. She didn't know where she was heading. She just had one wish: to reach a place where no one could find her. Time passed. Was it hours or days? Finally, The voices of people faded away. There was no one with her. After a point, the only thing she heard was her racing heart and her tired breath. At last, she reached a barren valley. She was completely alone. Only her Lord and the baby in her womb were with her. In such a place, who would hear her voice? At that moment, all she needed was a voice to say, "I'm here for you," a shoulder to lean on. Maybe deep down, she was hoping for this, but there was no one. No one to hold her hand, no one to say, "Don't be afraid." In the middle of all this loneliness, there was a baby growing inside her, a trust from her Lord, a miracle from Him. But at the same time, it was also a heavy responsibility she carried. Then, the day finally came, and the labor pains began. Right next to her was a date palm tree. It was as if that tree was the only companion she had in that barren valley. With her last strength, she leaned against its trunk. Her tired body was trembling, and her heart felt shattered. She no longer had the strength to endure. The fear and loneliness that had built up for days came out with her tears, and she cried out,
I wish I had died before this and was a thing long forgotten.
These were not words of rebellion. They were just the expression of her loneliness and helplessness. On one side, an unbearable pain that was spreading through her body. On the other, a loneliness hurting deep inside. At that moment, even being alive felt like too much for her. All she wanted was to be someone no one knew, someone no one even remembered. And in that moment, out of the silence came the voice of Jibreel a.s. Do not grieve. Your Lord has provided a stream at your feet. Maryam looked down at her feet, and she realized the cool water began to flow from the dry ground. This was the mercy of Allah, sent to her in her most desperate moment, just when she needed it the most. Yes, Maryam was not forgotten. This was not only water to ease her thirst, it was a blessing. It was a sign that meant, I have not forgotten you. Then, that majestic voice was heard again. And shake the trunk of this palm tree towards you. It will drop fresh, ripe dates upon you. She shook the palm tree, and ripe dates were falling down from the branches, a mercy placed before Maryam. Maryam knew that her Lord never abandoned her, and always listens to her. Even in her darkest hour, He was saying, do not grieve. And in fact, those words, do not grieve, weren't just for Maryam. They were for all of us. There are moments when we feel so alone, so tired, and unable to share the pain inside us with anyone. We go through times when we think no one understands. These words were spoken exactly for those moments. In such times, we can feel closer to Maryam and understand her more. And we come to realize that in fact, we are not alone. In that moment, one sentence is enough for our hearts. My Lord, you are enough for me. Yes, Isa a.s. was born, under the shade of a palm tree, with no one there to share this painful moment with her. No one held her hand, but the earth and the sky were witnesses, and for the first time since its creation, the world was witnessing a birth unlike anything ever seen before. This was not just a baby, he was a mercy from Allah. It was a miracle that happened without the touch of a man. Something people thought was impossible, coming to life with just the command, be. And when she took him in her arms, everything fell silent. The rocks, the earth, and the trees of the valley. Maryam's hands were trembling because she was now a mother, the mother of a prophet. After a while, she picked herself up and started walking again. By Allah's guidance, she made her way back toward Jerusalem. The streets where she once walked with great honor were now the streets of a difficult trial. Step by step, as she neared the city, the whispers began to rise. Maryam carried a child without a father. The eyes of the people surrounded her. Each gaze was like an arrow piercing her heart. Yet Maryam moved quietly through the crowd, still walking on. She had to. Every step felt like a test. The stones hurt her feet. But what hurt her the most was the weight of those stairs. But Maryam could not speak, because she still had another test, and the command had come from her Lord. But if you see any of the people say, "I have vowed silence to the most compassionate, so I am not talking to anyone today." Yes, even though Maryam's heart was overflowing, she could not say a single word, because she had taken a vow of silence. Maryam trusted only in her Lord. But of course, the people only judged what they saw, and slander, once spoken, spreads like poison. The whispers grew, spreading from ear to ear, and they never went silent. And every sentence pierced Maryam's heart.
What have you done? What have you done? Whose child is this? How could you have no shame?
Staying silent was not easy, and remaining silent while she was right, innocent, was perhaps the hardest of all. The voices from the crowd kept rising.
Oh, Maryam, you have certainly done a horrible thing. O sister of Harun, your father was not an indecent man, nor was your mother unchaste.
Prophet Harun was known and respected for his righteousness, and the people had greatly respected Maryam, just like they respected him. For someone who came from such a pure and honorable family, it was simply impossible to believe. Yet Maryam remained silent, and then she quietly pointed to the baby in her arms. And as she pointed, a mocking murmur rose from the crowd.
How can we speak to someone who is still a child in the cradle?
They had no idea what was about to happen. And then that moment came. It was as if everything stopped. Silence fell over the place. It was something that no one could have ever expected. The newborn baby in her arms began to speak. And this is what he said to them. Indeed, I am a servant of Allah. He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet. And he has made me blessed wherever I may be. He commanded me to pray, to give zakat as long as I live, and to be kind to my mother. He has not made me arrogant or defiant. Through the miracle he granted to his servant, this was the answer given by divine power on behalf of a mother who remained silent.
How could this be possible?
This is something unheard of. In that moment, no one could look at Maryam anymore, because they realized that what the baby said was a message coming from the Creator, and that blessed voice, coming from such a tiny body, changed everything. The truth was now clear. There were no longer any doubts, lies, or ill feelings in their hearts. And this is how divine help came to Maryam's aid. Not through Maryam defending herself, not through witnesses speaking up, but just through a baby in the cradle. Yet sadly, even after the miracle of Isa speaking in the cradle, some people did not let go of the pride and hatred in their hearts. Like the nations before them who rejected their prophets, some of them chose to deny the truth and continued to slander.
This is nothing but magic. All of this is a lie.
The Qur'an tells us, and we curse them for their disbelief and their saying against Maryam a great slander. So what happened then? Maryam lived her days quietly. The Qur'an tells us little of her later years, but sometimes silence itself speaks volumes. She never defended herself. She never tried to explain what had happened with a single word. Yet her purity and chastity continued to be spoken of for hundreds of years. Her name became a symbol of purity, submission, and patience. She became the only woman to have a surah named after her, and she received glad tidings from her Lord. O Maryam, indeed Allah has chosen you and purified you and chosen you above the women of the worlds. This was not just praise. It was the highest rank a servant could ever reach. And even though she just wanted to be forgotten, Allah made it so that billions of people would remember her and be inspired by her until the Day of Judgment. At the end of this journey, where we followed Maryam's silent steps, I want us to stop and reflect. Allah sometimes places in us trials we never expected. You might find yourself in a situation where no matter what you do, it seems like no one understands you. False words may spread about you, things you never did, things you never said. It might feel like the whole world is against you. One look of disappointment is enough to break your heart, and sometimes silence hurts even more than words. But know this, Maryam's Lord is your Lord too, and He is the most merciful who says to you, even in your loneliest moment, do not grieve and do not be sad. He is closer to you than the jugular vein in your neck. The one who says, I am here, my servant, in every hardship. The most compassionate who never closes His door. Perhaps today is the time to walk through that door. The salah you delayed for years. Wearing hijab. That decision you're afraid to make. That step you wanted to take but couldn't. Because what would everyone think of you if you did? If you're afraid of being alone on this path, of being judged, then remember, that day many people turned against Maryam, judging her and mocking her. She attained such a high rank in the sight of Allah that even though centuries have passed, her name has never been forgotten. So don't be afraid either. Walk through those crowds, just like Maryam, and say this to yourself, Here I am, Ya Rab. I walk this path with my weakness. They try to hurt me. They want to break me. Yet I trust in you. I know you will never abandon me. Even if you stumble, keep walking. On a path walked with His name, no one is ever lost. And with every step, you will discover your truest companion. Your safest refuge was always your Lord, no one else. And at the end of that path lies the call every soul longs to hear. O tranquil soul, return to your Lord, well pleased with Him, and well pleasing to Him, and enter among my righteous servants, and enter my paradise. In the next episode, you'll be welcomed by Aisha bint Abi Bakr, the mother of the Ummah, whose knowledge has illuminated generations of believers, the Prophet's beloved wife, and one of the closest witnesses to his blessed life.